Schmitz. When I go hunting with my family in the woods, they love to tell stories. They love to tell stories about how they would see and hear moose in the woods and how they would be as quiet as a mouse or as loud as a train. And I'm sure most of you would love to see a moose in the woods. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources should hold a hunt for these wolves in the northeast of Minnesota to help the moose population grow and to further sustain the wolf sources of food. First, I will talk about the problems that wolves pose, and secondly, a solution to that problem. The problem with putting the wolves back on the endangered list for Minnesota is that it would hurt the moose population and the sources of food that the wolves have. An average wolf needs 5 to 7 pounds of food a day to survive and have children, which means with the average size of a pack to be 6, means that they need 30 to 42 pounds of food per day. Another problem is that the moose population is hurting because of the wolves. The moose population has been down by 50% since 2006, and one of these reasons is parasites and another wolves. An average male moose can weigh 1,500 pounds, and an average deer can weigh 170 pounds, which means for wolves, a moose is a better target for them because it can sustain them for longer. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as of 2020, has said that the wolves will be taken off the federal endangered list on January 4th of 2020, which happened just a few months ago. Which means that the states will now have the jurisdiction to manage them by themselves. According to Dan Crackner, a correspondent of NPR News, says that there are 2,700 wolves in Minnesota. Of these wolves, 2,700 wolves in Minnesota. For them to go back right now onto the endangered list, it's for them to drop to 1,600, and all the protections will be granted back to them. But the rise of wolves the population of wolves have rose over the last 20 years. And according to the U.S. Department of the Interior, as of 2016, they say that there's 3,700 wolves in the western Great Lakes region, which means that most of the wolves in this region belong to Minnesota, which means that they have most of the power in managing them, and they have more responsibility in doing so. Now that I've talked about the problem, let's talk about the solution. The solution would be that the state of Minnesota would hold a hunt for these wolves in the northeastern part of the state. They have had successful hunts before. The DNR in 2012 to 2014 has had a hunt during the fall, and they've taken about a few hundred wolves per year. They do this by selling tags and limiting the number of tags that you can buy and take. This also helps the moose and wolf population because all tags bought from the DNR go right back into the DNR. So they can further conserve the wildlife in the state and help all around. And with only 5% of those hunters who did take a wolf that year, those 3 years, means that they made a pretty good margin on it. Today I have talked about why wolves are a problem and a solution to that problem. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources should have a hunt for wolves in the northeastern part of the state to further help the moose population and to sustain the wolf's sources of food. I'm sure most of you would love to see a wolf, would love to see a moose in the wild again, and to further grow our moose population.